My name is Christoph Schalk. I'm part of the NCD International management team here. I'm one of the two located in Germany. So right now I'm making this call or this webinar here from Würzburg, which is a city in the north of Bavaria. At NCD International, I'm responsible for the International Partners Network and for for everything that is connected to training and to coaching. So I'm also in the lead for the international NCD coach community, and you are part of that. And it's great that you joined us. Well, tonight or today or this morning or tonight or whatever. Where are you from? It's a very mixed community tonight or today. Last year, it was more or less exclusive for the US. You had the privilege to start in the community, but this year we opened that for all other countries, and I think we already have a good start. So welcome to this webinar with the title Attitude Goals in a Change Process. And I guess you're wondering what that is, attitude goals. And in a few minutes, I will expand on that and explain what that really means. So there's still some people coming in. Great that you're joining us. Warm welcome to wherever you're participating from. Okay, so, looks that it makes sense to wait a little bit more. 21 now. Okay. This is a webinar about change. You see, NCD is about change, and most people think about change processes in the church, so in an organization, basically. But of course, when we're talking about change in the NCD context, it always has to do with discipleship processes. You're probably aware that some of our NCD resources and NCD books are labeled with that title, an NCD discipleship resource. And that is also change. When we are growing spiritually, when we are developing in our personality, there is change. Our small groups in the churches, they are changing. They should develop for the better. And also churches and denominations, Christian organizations, non-profit organizations, they all are in change processes. Today, when we're speaking about attitude goals, and I will define that later, we are actually talking about the whole range of change. So attitude goals could be helpful in an organizational change context. So that is something that would support organizational change. Attitude goals can also support change at the group level. So when we're, for instance, talking about a leadership team or small groups in a church. And attitude goals can also be helpful and supportive at the personal level. If a person wants to change a habit, or to use a completely different example, wants to lose weight, that is also a change process. And this type of goal, the attitude goal, can help to support such a change process. Well, let's talk about goals. I have no idea what comes to your mind when you think about goals. What comes to your mind when you hear that word, goal? And well, I guess that many of you think of SMART goals. Yeah, you've probably heard of this category of goals. SMART means specific, measurable, attainable, or attractive. Some people say realistic and time-bound. Well, I don't know if you're using these goals, for instance, in coaching or in your leadership role, and if you like them. Some people like SMART goals. Some people say, well, that's the only way you can do it when you're in goal setting, and others are a little bit more skeptical. Well, let's listen to those who invented this category of goals. There are two psychologists, organizational psychologists, who did a lot of research in the 1990s. They were not absolutely the first ones talking about this kind of goals, but they did most of the research, and they were absolute fans of SMART goals. However, in their research, they discovered that these goals, SMART goals, are only valid for tasks with a simple structure, for tasks that are based on objective facts, for tasks that focus on results, and where the strategy is well known. They are valid for tasks where the processes are well established, where a high commitment is given, and where all people who are involved have high intrinsic motivation, and there are no goal conflicts. Well, and these two guys, they are not people criticizing SMART goals. Yeah, so that you understand me correctly, they are more or less those who invented the SMART goals and did a lot of research on that. But basically, they are saying this type of goals, the SMART goals, can only be applied to a very limited kind of situations. And well, what sometimes happens when you're successful with a concept such as SMART goals, it becomes publicly well known. Many people write about it. You read about it in all books on leadership, on goal setting, on management. And what happens then is that sometimes the context gets lost. So the concept of SMART goals is extremely popular, but at the same time, many people do not know where these goals can be applied to, and when they simply do not work. So very often we have to do with very complex situations in a change process. A situation where we have a lot of unknown factors, where we have no idea how the process will look like because we're doing that for the first time, where people are not automatically motivated. And sometimes they even have goal conflicts or inner conflicts. Think about a change process in a church doing NCD. You have some people who are in favor of that change, other people who are opposed to it. Some people want to invest in that and change personally. Others say, well, no, it's better to keep it as we had it for the last couple of decades. So a change situation in a church or in an organization is very often pretty complex. And then we try to apply the SMART goals and make the interesting experience that often it simply doesn't work because we didn't listen to those who defined those goals, who invented those goals, and we don't apply, well, the correct topic, the correct area for this category of goals. Well, and to be a little bit more critical about the SMART goals, there was another survey done in 2010, just 8 years ago, the Salmon survey. Don't know if you have heard about that. That was on the effectiveness of objective agreements in companies based on SMART goals. And well, I simplify now a little bit, but to summarize the findings here, first of all, it was very interesting to see that only 51% of executives are able to quote the objectives that they defined for the company or for themselves or for their coworkers. Only 27% of the coworkers are able to quote the objectives. So that's an even smaller group. And if the executives or if the coworkers reach the goals, they claim to have produced the results themselves. But if they fail, others are made responsible. Yeah, so that is very often a situation you see in organizations and in companies that work with objective agreements. And this survey and this study and research behind it showed very clearly that objectives do not correlate with what really happens in the company. There's no positive effect that can be proven. Well, it seems that the whole category of SMART goals is somehow overestimated. So a relevant question is, are there other categories of goals that may be even more helpful, especially when we talk about a complex change process? And let me introduce you to two other categories of goals. You are already familiar, I guess so. You're familiar with the SMART goals, which could also be seen as so-called result goals, because they are focusing on a certain result. For instance, if you say our worship service attendance will have doubled by the end of the year, well, you probably should write 2018, not 2017. That would be a typical result goal. Yeah, in a way that could be a SMART goal. It is pretty specific, it is measurable, you simply have to count. If it is achievable or attractive, well, that depends on the situation and also if it's realistic or not. And of course, in this in the way how I formulated here, it is time bound, so it can also be checked on the calendar. Well, there are two other categories of goals that are very often more effective and more helpful when we're talking about a change process in an organization or also on the personal level. One may be familiar to you, that is action goals. So here the focus is not on the result. Our worship service will have worship service attendance will have doubled. The focus is on the action. I will meet with my team twice a week. That is also a goal, but the focus is on what you're actually doing, so on the action. The attitude is a completely different kind of goal, and some people would even say, well, that is not even a goal. Here on the slide, you have a typical example for such an attitude goal, and that is actually from a team attitude goal that developed the sentence, "We hoist the sails." So this refers to a picture that can be motivating for a team. And actually, the key in this category of goals is not the sentence you finally come up. That is also important, but the key is actually the process to develop such a statement and the way how you use it. For you personally, or for a team, or for a group of people in an organization, in a church, or even in a company. Well, I will expand on that, of course. That is our key topic for today, attitude goals. Oh, sorry, just saw that the presentation was delayed here. Excuse me. So the result goals, our worship service attendance will have doubled by the end of 2018. The action goal, I will meet with my team twice a week. And the attitude goal, we hoist the sail. Sorry, that was a little bit tricky here with my slide. I just said the result goals, they are very often estimated, but what is really a very effective, very powerful combination is combining attitude goals with action goals. If you have these two types combined, an inner attitude, and that's what we're talking about, an inner attitude in an individual or in a team, a group of individuals with some concrete action plans, that is a very powerful combination for change. Now, let me start a little bit earlier. I don't know if you ever have heard the word Rubicon. The Rubicon comes from Latin. It is actually a shallow river in northeastern Italy, just south of the city of Ravenna. And during the Roman Republic, so now we're talking about 2000 plus years ago, during the Roman Republic, the river Rubicon marked the boundary between the Roman province of Cisalpine Gaul and the northeast of Italy proper. And that was directly controlled by Rome and his allies to the south. And the governors of the Roman provinces, they were appointed pro-magistrates with the so-called imperium, which is a Latin word and means the right to command. And they had this right to command for their own province or for their own provinces. Now, the interesting thing is the governor would then serve as a general of the Roman army, within the territory of the province, and the Roman law specified that only elected magistrates, which would be consuls or praetors, could hold the imperium within Italy. So inside proper Italy. So anyone who would enter Italy at the head of his troops forfeited his imperium and was therefore no longer legally allowed to command troops. So exercising the imperium was forbidden by the law, and that was a capital offense. So if a Roman general crossed this border, this river, with his army marching towards Rome, that was basically saying, I'm going into war with my own capital, into war with Rome. And now, almost 50 years before Christ, in the year 94 before Christ, Julius Caesar led a single legion south over the river Rubicon from Gaul to Italy, and he made his way to Rome. And in doing so, he deliberately broke the law on imperium and made armed conflict inevitable. Well, and some writers, historic writers, they described Caesar as being undecided when he approached the river. Well, being undecided, that is very often the situation when you're in a change process. You have to make the decision. Should I move forward? Should I stay here? Do I accept some limits? Do I accept borders? Or should I go forward towards a goal? And according to one of these historical writers, Suetonius, Caesar uttered the famous phrase, alia iacta est, which means the die has been cast. And well, this phrase, crossing the Rubicon, has survived to any individual or group committing itself sorry for my English today, irrevocably to a risky and revolutionary course of action, to the modern phrase, passing the point of no return. So that's what we're talking about here. Now, why do we explain so much of history here at this point? Whenever you want to come to an action, and that's what you see here on this slide on the right-hand side, whenever you want to come to an action, you may need some preparation for that. And before you can prepare, you need an intention. Yeah. So any change process, any action that leads to change needs preparation, needs an intention. But to come up with this decision, to come up with this intention, you need enough of motivation. And now the motivation is a complex thing. Motivation comes from conscious part as well as from unconscious parts. And that's where the Rubicon comes into the picture. If someone just makes a decision from the conscious part of his brain, saying, well, it makes sense to me, so I make this decision now for this change and go for it, the likelihood is, well, quite large that you can go for a certain distance, yeah, but then suddenly, well, you can't move forward any longer. It simply doesn't work. You make a decision, you can implement it for a limited time, and then you fail. Because there was some other part inside you from your unconscious motivation that said, well, I also have some other interests. Yeah, one part of you says, I want to go this way. Another part says, I want to go that way. And we have to bring all of that together. And working with attitude goals describes a process that helps individuals, that helps teams to develop a motivation or an inner attitude that is undivided and gives you full power for action and gives you full power for change. So that is the context we're talking about here. And that makes it also clear why SMART goals often fail. Well, a goal can be specific and measurable, realistic and time-bound, but maybe it is not attractive. So it's already good if you use the A to say we need an attractive goal instead of an attainable goal. And you find both versions. Attractive already relates a little bit to the unconscious part, because that's something that is appealing to me. Yeah, and probably we're talking about this A in the SMART goal today. Yeah. So why attitude goals? Because if you really want to change something, if you really move forward, if you really want to go for action to reach our goals, we need an undivided motivation from the conscious part as well as from the unconscious part in us. Well, now how can we practically include the unconscious mind? The language of the unconscious mind is pictures. Yeah, I always say that the conscious mind, that's the word files here on our hard drive in the brain, and the unconscious mind, that's the photos from the last holidays or so here in another folder on our hard drive. And obviously, if you're looking for a document on your hard drive, it's quite easy to get access to that. Yeah, it's indexed. You probably type a word into the search field, and then you find it quite easily. If you're looking for a picture on your hard drive, it's more difficult because, well, most people don't index their pictures. I don't know if you do, but I have thousands of pictures on my hard drive here. I'm talking about my computer. I have probably millions here in my brain. And I don't index them. I'm just too lazy to do that. So if I'm looking for a specific picture, it's quite difficult to find that. Well, our brain functions a little bit better than a hard drive, so that could be easier to find pictures, but actually beginning a dialogue with the unconscious mind. And when I say dialogue, it means a dialogue between the conscious and the unconscious mind. Then we did the first steps already to develop an inner attitude that is powerful and helps us to move forward. Now, I have also to talk another word to give you some more context before we bring all of these pieces together. Another key word to understand this whole procedure of attitude goals is the word embodiment. Embodiment is a word that was introduced by Antonio Damasio, who's a US-based a neuroscientist. Originally, he comes from Portugal, but I think a long time ago he moved to the US, and he did a lot of very deep and insightful research in the whole area of neuropsychology and neuroscience. And embodiment for him means a lot of things. He has written a lot of books about it, but some parts that are relevant for us is that the memory is always connected with our body. Emotions are connected with our body. We can feel emotions not only somewhere in the brain, but we feel that in our body. Our body has a language, and I'm not speaking about what we normally call body language, but it also keeps memories and it reacts to external signals and reminds us of things. Yeah, our body is connected with our brain, with the limbic system, and it and that can be used with so-called somatic markers. Well, what is a somatic marker? Have you ever been in a situation where you checked your emails and you see one email coming in? Maybe it makes even a little noise, and then you see only the name of the sender, and you see the topic, and you feel immediately your body react in a way, sometimes positive. Oh, wow, that was the mail I was waiting for. Ooh. Something in your body makes it like this. And I ask that question very often in seminars, and so I'm quite sure that most of you already made that experience, that the body reacts immediately, automatically on something that you're experiencing. And Well, this somatic reaction is a very fast reaction. It works actually in within 200 milliseconds, and it cannot be controlled by our conscious mind. It's a very automatic thing, and it is well, it only says this is a positive situation or this is a negative situation. It's kind of black and white. And it's just a rough system, but nevertheless, in many situations, it helps us to make a quick decision. And we will need that in a few minutes to go into this practical process of developing attitude goals, because that has to do something with our emotions and with our memories, experience that we made during our lives, and with our unconscious part that is necessary to come up with powerful actions. Well, you're probably all aware that we can have mixed feelings. Yeah, there are some situations where we do not have only positive feelings or only negative feelings. Just imagine you have two scales, and both scales go from 0% to 100%. And one scale is for positive feelings. And here I'm not talking about very conscious feelings such as joy. I'm more talking about the gut feeling. Yeah, and that can be positive, and that could be measured on a scale from 0 to 10. And then there's a second scale from 0 to 10, and you can measure your negative gut feeling with that. Can you imagine a situation where that was mixed? And well, actually, these two scales are independent. Why are they independent? Independent means they, if you combine them, they don't have to sum up to 100%. So there could be a situation where you say this is 70% positive, and at the same time it is 50% negative. Or a situation where you say this is 80% positive and 5% negative. Have you experienced such situations? If you like, I invite you to type in a keyword or two in the chat window if you experience such situations. Just a short keyword that describes such a situation with mixed feelings. Okay, anyone who wants to type something? Uncertainty. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that is a typical situation when maybe you have to make a decision. You're uncertain, you're unsure what to do, and you're looking at the potential outcome, which could be a positive challenge. Say, well, that excites me. 90% positive, and at the same time there is uncertainty, which causes 90%, 40%, for instance, of a negative feeling at the same time. Yeah. Holiday celebrations with family. Oh yeah, yeah. For me, actually, that would be 60% positive and well, maybe 20% negative. Don't know how it would be for you, Nelson. Gary, anticipation before making a presentation or preaching a message. Yeah, wonderful. When I'm preaching in my church, which is a vineyard church, normally I would say that is 90% positive and well, maybe 5% negative. Yearly business meetings in church. Well, I'm in a good position that I never have to do that. When a person says, Pastor, we need to pray. Okay. 50% positive, 90% negative. Okay, wonderful. Thank you for your examples. Okay. Now, let me describe you the overall process of developing attitude goals. So a goal where your unconscious motivation and your conscious motivation comes together, forms an undivided, powerful inner strength, a motivation, an attitude that helps you to move forward in a change situation. The first step actually is choosing a picture with your gut feeling. And you know, from the invitation email where you also had the link for this webinar, I shared a whole a large file with more than 100 pictures with you. And I will just demonstrate that in a few minutes with one of you. So the first step actually would be choosing a picture with your gut feeling. And gut feeling means keeping in mind these two scales, the positive and the negative. And we would be looking for a picture that has nothing on the negative scale. So really 0%. And at the same time, a picture that is very strong on the positive scale. So when we look at that picture, immediately we feel something in our body. That's why I was talking about somatic markers. Yeah, we feel something, it's opening my heart. It's speaking to me. This picture has a message for me. It's warming something in myself, yeah, something like this, something I really can feel. That's why we speak about gut feeling, yeah. And on the positive scale, that should be at least at 70% or more. Yeah, so we're looking for a picture between 70 and 100% on the positive and 0% on the negative side. We're looking then in a second step for spontaneous and positive associations connected with that picture. So here the dialogue begins. On the one hand, there is the picture that we just have chosen. And on the other hand, we will create a list of words that are positive associations, things that we connect, that we see in that picture. Words that come to our conscious mind when we look at the photo, the picture. And from these words and the picture, we can develop the personal attitude goal. And that is kind of a personal motto. However, this is not a motto that is used to communicate it to someone else. That is just something private. It's a personal motto, and even a team motto, a team attitude goal, is not a mission statement. This is nothing that would be communicated to someone outside the group or the team, but it's just for internal purposes. Sometimes it sounds similar to a mission statement, so just the way how the sentence is well worded can lead us into the misunderstanding that this is like a mission statement, but it's not a message to others, it's a message for ourselves. Step number 4 would be the development of personal reminders, and I will expand on that in a few minutes. That would be actually the process to develop a personal attitude goal, a personal motto. And if you then want to work with a team, they all would first develop their personal attitude goals, and then from their personal attitude goals and the associations they built up together before, they would now develop a team attitude goal. And that is connected to a team culture. Or when we're talking about an organization or a church, it is connected with the organizational culture, with the organizational the church or organizational culture. And also a team, of course, needs something that reminds them of these attitude goals, and we will come back to that. Well, right now, I would like to demonstrate how to do that in practical terms. So I need a volunteer person who is willing to do that with me. Now we have 24 people now on the list, 22 participants actually. Let me just ask Henrik, would you be willing to do that with me? I'm asking because, as you can hear, my English is limited, and Henrik, I've talked to you already a couple of times, so I know that I understand you. Would that be okay with you? Well, let me switch on your audio. Now your audio is on, Henrik.
Yeah, it will be okay. With as long as you know, as I've told you, I don't usually think in pictures, so you've chosen the wrong person to start with. But
oh, Okay, that will be interesting. Yes, yes, you explain. You told me, yeah. Wow, that will be a challenge. Do you have the file with all the pictures in front of you?
I do. Yes.
You do. Okay, so I would like to ask you, Henrik, now to scan through these pictures, and it's more than 100 pictures. And well, actually, let me excuse me. Let me move one slide forward, because there is a guiding question for this little exercise. Yeah, we could do that exercise just in general for your life. For instance, we could do that for a specific change situation in your church. But for demonstration reasons, I think the best leading question here would be, what picture would help me, we're talking about you, Henrik, what picture would help you most in your current situation? And you don't have to share with us what that is or what comes to your mind when you read that sentence. Okay, so what picture would help you most in your current situation? And I ask you just to scan through these 107, I think 107 pictures. And when you have the impression, your gut feeling reacts in a strong positive way under this guiding question, that may be the picture. And maybe you come up with 2 or 3, we will see. So yeah. I give you some time, and while you're doing that, this is the chance for the rest of the group to ask me some questions or make some comments in the chat window if you have questions. Any questions already? And Henrik, just let me know when you have a picture.
Yep. Wait a minute. Yep, I will.
So there's one question. How do we get to see these pictures? There was a link in the email that also gave you the link to this webinar, and there you can download a huge file, and that's with all the pictures. And as soon as Henrik has selected his picture, I will show that to all of you. Any other questions? How do unconscious motivations relate to the idea of elephant and rider? They sound very similar. Well, sorry, I'm not familiar with that concept, with that idea. Let me see if I find you in the list, Thomas, then I will just give you the mic. Here you are. And maybe you can expand a little bit. That your mic is on now. So what idea is that?
There is a concept that I know that the Heath brothers use of change, including the rider, the elephant, and the path, and that the rider refers more to the conscious decision making, whereas the rider, the elephant refers to some of the more ingrained patterns that we have that come up now and again.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, it obviously sounds similar. Or at least it relates to that overall concept that there is an area in your life where you make conscious decisions. There is an area in your life where things go more in an automatic way, and there are other areas that are even unconscious. So it's not just automatic, because some automatic behaviors, habits, for instance, they can be pretty conscious, but it's not so easy to influence that. So these are basically the 3 categories we're talking about. I'm sorry, I'm simply not familiar with this concept here, so I'm not sure if I should comment even more. So I don't want to say any rubbish here if I'm not familiar with that.
I have chosen 2 pictures now.
Okay. Which ones do you have? Please give me the number of the picture.
11.
The page number 11. Okay, let me find that. That is the sailing boats. Is that right?
Yeah.
Let me just write it down. Number 11, and which is the other one?
47.
47. Okay, and now I show that to all of you. Just give me a second. Okay, now you should see the sailing boats here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Henrik, let me first ask you a question. When you look at this first picture here with the sailing boats, on the positive scale from 0 to 100, how strong is the positive feeling that you associate with that picture?
Within this given context, I would say 95.
95, okay. Is there anything negative that you associate with that picture?
Yeah, well, let's say 5. Yeah.
5%, okay. Sometimes people are very critical with their own negative gut feeling or feelings in general. So sometimes 5% is okay, but in general, I'm looking for a picture that is strongly positive and really has 0% on the negative side. So let's have a look at the other picture, which was 47. Is it this one here with the books, the library?
Yeah.
Okay. How strong is it on the positive side?
That must be 100. Yeah.
That must be 100. Okay, I know you're a person who really likes books. Yeah, you really like books. Anything negative connected with that one?
No, not really.
Okay. So for our purpose, I would prefer to continue with this picture here. So if I was in a coaching process with an individual or a pastor, a church leader, or even in a coaching process with a team, I always would recommend to select or to choose a picture that is strongly positive. That means more than 70% of the positive scale. And whenever possible, really nothing on the negative side. Yeah, and the other one had 5% negative. I don't know. Can you even describe what the negative thing is with the sailing boats?
I can. I mean, looking at it from the guiding question, something that would help in the present situation. Mm-hmm. The picture could also be seen as describing a competition, and that's something that would be negative.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes people can describe what the negative part is, what the positive part is, but here we are really also talking about unconscious parts of our personality. So there are situations where people select a picture and they cannot even describe why. And actually, that was the instruction. Yeah, not to choose it with your conscious mind, but to choose it with your gut feeling. Yeah? So you may come up with a picture that is strongly positive, nothing negative, but no idea why I selected this one. Okay, so this is actually the first step. Now, the second step, and we will do that here as a whole group. The second step was collecting spontaneous, positive words that we associate with that. And Henrik, you can just lean back now and see what all of us are doing for you. So our job as a group of participants is now, please write in the chat window words that come to your mind when you see this picture here with all these books, and that you would see as a resourceful word. So we're looking for, words that are positive, resourceful associations that come to your mind when you see this. Okay, and Henrik, you see that, yeah? Unlimited learning options, research, truth, looks like heaven, knowledge, answers, well-educated. Okay, what else comes to your mind? Just write it down. You need some more. Perspective. Okay, safety. That's a lot of reading. Okay. Disorganization. Okay, look for positive and resourceful words, and maybe Justin, there is one for you. Uh-huh. What else comes to your mind? Just spontaneous words, maybe also a partial sentence, a few words, nesting. Wonderful, yeah. Anything else? Don't be shy, just write it down here in the list. Limitless, quiet, peaceful. Very good. Okay, good, wonderful. And one more, relaxed. Henrik, now here is the next task for you. What if everything I see is negative? Yeah, that is a good question, and that's actually the next task now for Henrik. Henrik, when you look over all these words, you should now take these two scales as a tool again, and you filter. You use these two scales as a filter, and first of all, you put everything. You delete everything from your personal list that has anything negative for you in it. Yeah. So let's say if limitless has 5% negative, yeah, or nesting has 20% negative for you, then you just delete it from your personal list. And maybe you want to, I don't know if you have a piece of paper in front of you and a pen, you may want to write down all those keywords that are strongly positive, so higher than 70%, and at the same time, nothing negative in it. Yeah?
Yeah.
So make your own selection from that.
Will do.
So what Henrik is doing right now, he uses your suggestions as a starting point to bring his conscious mind in a dialogue with his unconscious mind. Yeah, and bring the picture in contact with all of these keywords. And we give him a few more minutes. And Henrik, you just say when you're done.
Okay. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Just so I'm sure that I understand correct, Christoph, because I'm still channeling also this through the original guiding question. Mm-hmm. What will help you, so I'm thinking of a certain situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's in line of that, I'm evaluating the words. Yeah.
Okay. Now we will, let me just open the whiteboard here for all of us. So let me see. Yep, now you should be able to see the whiteboard. And Henrik, I will write for you. So just one second. Just give me your words. What is it?
Research.
Research. Okay.
Truth.
Truth. Oops. Truth. Yep.
Knowledge.
Okay.
Answers.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, perspective. Or perspectives, I suppose it was.
Perspectives. Okay. And now what would you add to that list? When you look at your picture, what other resourceful and positive thoughts come to your mind?
Clarity.
Clarity.
Of course, relate to those. Certainty. Little bit strong word, but I can't find another one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we continue, I want to answer a question that just came up here in the chat. In a coaching situation, would I, as the coach, come up with these words to begin the dialogue? Well, what I do very often is I give that as a homework. So we would position that exercise somewhere at the end of a coaching session, and then I ask my coachee to find 3 or 4 people until we have our next coaching session, and show them the picture and ask them for this list of words, and then bring these 3 or 4 lists together, make the selection according to the 2 scales, and add the own words as well, and then bring that list to the next session. If that is not possible, for instance, the exercise comes up at the beginning of a coaching session, or we only have 1 session, then we do it together. Yeah. So I will bring in my words, and the coachee will come up with his or her own terms. Yeah. Well, that's how you can do it practically. Okay, Henrik, now we have a list only with strongly positive words here and nothing negative. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. The next step now would be to develop a motto from these words and or the picture. Well, and a third option actually is to come up with something completely new that was just evoked basically by looking at these words and looking at the picture. And we're still using that guiding question. Yeah, what would be helpful for me in this current situation? Is there anything that spontaneously comes to your mind? And people are very different here. Some people say, well, I already know that sentence right now. It's a very spontaneous thing. Others would say, well, I have to sleep about that and maybe think a little longer about it. So I have no idea how you function in that area. How is it? Where are you?
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever word will it would come into that sentence. The 2 words that's coming in now, in one way that I'm just continuing the list in one way, is insight and then momentum.
Okay, so more words are coming to your mind.
Momentum built on insight. If I have to come up with something right now.
Say it again.
Momentum.
Yeah.
Which is built or based on
Momentum
on insight.
based on insight. Okay. Now let me go to back to the slides for a moment. Sorry, just have to switch. Let me see. Here we go. Yeah. So the step where we are right now is to develop a draft. This is not the final motto. It is just a draft. Yeah. Well, after the draft, sorry, that was too fast now. After the draft, we could develop a final version, but the final version, of course, that may take some time. So for the time being, we can work with that. And let me quickly go back to the whiteboard. Sorry. So here we go. You should see it again. So momentum based on insight. There are a couple of criteria that are important where you can double check if that sentence is really powerful. The first criteria is again using these 2 scales from 0 to 100%. When you read that sentence, momentum based on insight, how strong does that sentence feel on the positive scale?
Well, I probably just now I can't get higher than 50 or 60.
Okay, okay. Let me write that down.
Mm-hmm.
So 50 to 60%. Okay. Is there anything negative? If you read it, how does it feel? Yeah.
And yeah, let's just say 30% negative. Yeah.
30% negative. Okay, and I have no idea if we are able in this limited time frame here in this demonstration to come up with a final version that is above 70% and has nothing negative in it. This is very often the it sounds too negative if I say it's the time-consuming part. I would say it's the key part of the process now. Of doing all that fine-tuning, yeah, and discovering the right wording, putting in the right elements into that sentence. And sometimes it's not the first thing that comes to your mind. That is the final thing. Yeah. Some people are they're trying to put all the words in one sentence, yeah, combining, how many do we have on this list? Nine words or so, putting all the 9 words in one sentence, and then you come up with a sentence that sounds just terrible and is not motivating any longer. So this is not the way how to do it. Yeah, but no. I like how you did it. Momentum based on insight. It's pretty short. It's to the point, and potentially that is a good thing. Okay, so number 1 was not yet fulfilled. A second criteria. Some people tend to put into a sentence what they want to avoid and not what they want to achieve. A motivating goal, an inner attitude that is really powerful should be focusing on something you want to achieve and not on something you want to avoid. Momentum based on insight, to me that sounds like something you want to achieve and not like something you want to avoid, right?
Yes, absolutely. However, the 30% negative is that you could also read it, don't move before you know enough.
Ah, okay. So that is somehow built into it, yeah?
Yeah, but that's not the intention, but I can see if reading it, if somebody else saw it, that's what they could see as well.
Okay. Yeah. And that is actually an important discovery. Yeah, that could be the key to change the sentence a little bit. Yeah, to avoid the avoidance. Thomas just made a comment in the chat window. Insights build momentum. How would that work for you?
In the present situation, which of course Thomas have no idea what it is, so exactly. It's very fair. The momentum is there.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's not the point for you. Okay. No. Good.
I can give you an alternative.
Yeah.
Boost momentum with insights.
Okay. Let me write that down. Boost momentum. And what was the rest with?
With insights.
Insights.
If we stay with insights, maybe insights should be.
Okay. Yeah. And how strong would that be on the positive?
Now we are moving up on the 80-90s. Yeah.
80 to 90% positive. And how strong would that be on the negative side?
As you know, I'm North European, so we are very critical. But even there, I can only go up to a 5%. Actually,
okay, maybe 5% negative. Okay, do you have any idea from where that comes from?
Being Danish, I can't say 0. I have to be a little bit critical.
Okay, yeah. Good. So I can accept that. Yeah, I come from Germany. We are almost as critical as the Danes are, so we can live with that. Okay. That's good. Yeah, there's another criteria, number 3, that it must be possible to self-control it. It must be well, to achieve that goal must be under your control, must be possible to influence it proactively. Sometimes people come up with a goal that is completely outside their control, and that wouldn't be helpful. Boost momentum with insights. Does it feel, how does it is for you? Would you say, yeah, I can influence that? That's under my control?
I definitely can, yes.
Okay, good. Then we actually, we meet all the 3 criteria. It's strongly positive, almost nothing negative besides being Danish. It's a wording that is focusing on what you want to achieve, and it's not focusing on what you want to avoid, and it's something that you can control. So that may be the motto, that may be your attitude goal. Well, this is a very fresh developed goal now. It's just a sentence, and you may want to write it down on a sheet of paper. But as we say in German, I'm not sure if you say that in English. We say paper is patient. So you can write it down and put it somewhere and forget it immediately. There are some marks now here in your brain. There's a network, of course, now that wants to remember this sentence, but still it's a very weak, a very fresh, very new network in your brain, in your memory. And you have to strengthen that. And that's, let me switch now to the slides again. 1 second. Here we go. And that's why we do need so-called reminders. Yeah, and on the personal level, reminders could be pictures. For instance, you could use that picture with from the library as reminders. You could use that sentence, write it on a sheet of paper or on a sticker and put that on your mirror in the somewhere, or you could have any objects like a very special book, for instance, because you have chosen a picture with books, or something else. Yeah, something that reminds you every day of this motto, and by doing so, you make that an inner part of yourself. And by doing so, it is something that every day creates some new motivation that you need for change, and it establishes that and strengthens that inner attitude. When we're talking, not as we do it here right now, when we're talking about a team attitude goal, we also need reminders. That could be existing routines that are redefined for that new purpose, or that could be a few minutes in a meeting that happens anyway, or it could be a sentence in internal emails. As I said, the attitude goal is not a message for the rest of the world, but it's something for you, for your team, for your organization, so for internal purposes. Or you would have a certain decoration in your room or whatever. You could use it as a screensaver or as a screen background on your smartphone, on your PC. So that would be examples of reminders. Okay. Now, let me move forward. Henrik, thanks so much for helping me with this. I keep your microphone switched on, just in case I have a spontaneous question to you. But now I want to move forward to the other topic, attitude goals for teams, because that is a little bit more than just developing an attitude goal on the personal level. But if you want to use that in a team setting or in a church setting, the first part is that everyone in that team, everyone in that group of people develops a personal attitude goal. That's the starting point. Everyone needs that. And of course, in that case, it is related to a team topic. It's not related to anything private, to a personal background situation. Let's say there is a leadership team and they want to work on the minimum factor passionate spirituality. They could say, well, we really need full motivation for this topic, full energy. We don't want to use the gas pedal and the brake at the same time, to speak so in a picture. But we really want to have a powerful attitude to be available in that change process. So this team could say, well, what picture could help us really to work with full energy in this NCD change process? Just as an example, yeah? And maybe you have a more specific topic. And then every team member would select the 3 favorite words from the list with the positive associations. Henrik had his list of 9 words, and each team member would now look at this list and select the 3 favorites. And then everyone would write the favorite words on facilitation cards and pin them on a pin board. So let's say you have a team of 5 people, then you have 15 cards on the pin board, the 15 favorites of that group. And then everyone would highlight 3 words with glue dots on this pin board, but not his or her own words. So you could only select favorite words from the others in your group. And this would be done based on a strong positive somatic marker. So your gut feeling, you see the words of the others, and you put your glue dot there where you see, well, that's also a word. It's not on my list, it's the word from somebody else, but it has a very strong positive effect on me. And then the group would look at the 6 words with the highest score, and then the team could develop a team attitude goal from these words. And finally, again, come up with reminders. So that is the short summary how to do that in groups or with teams. 2 more slides. Let me connect again attitude goals with NCD. As I said in the very beginning, NCD is a change process. And the NCD change process can cause mixed feelings within the leadership, within the implementation team, within a church. And to minimize the negative effects of these negative feelings, of these mixed feelings, it can be helpful to develop personal and or team attitude goals. That reduces the mixed feelings, and it really maximizes the motivation and creates a powerful change attitude within that group of people. That's the reason why I really like to work with that, and very often it is even more effective than working simply with SMART goals. I'm not saying that SMART goals are bad. Don't misunderstand me here, please. But SMART goals, as we saw in the very beginning, they have a limited area where you can apply them. What is often much more powerful is to do such a team development process, develop an attitude goal for the team, and then combine it with concrete action goals. So that's what we're doing, and that's what we're doing, and that's what we're doing. Yeah. And last but not least, let me show you a list of success factors for implementation. And this is something that doesn't come from NCD, it doesn't come from me. It is based on Stephen Covey and Alexandra Altmann. Alexandra Altmann for many years led the Covey organization here in Germany. They created a list that you really need when you're implementing change with a team. Number one success factor is clarity. So everyone knows and understands the goals. And here we are really talking about action goals, that everyone knows what we're talking about. Commitment. All in the team support the goals with the right inner attitude. That is the connection here to our topic of today. And action, everyone knows what to do next. Again, we speak about action goals. Empowerment, everyone has all resources needed. Synergy, which almost sounds like symbiosis, one of the NCD principles. All work together with their strength. Accountability, all keep each other accountable, focus on a small number of goals. Sometimes it is already enough, at least in a personal change process, to have that attitude goal, and you may not even need action goals. Sometimes people are surprised when they finalized their attitude goal, and you tell them, well, for the next 4 weeks until we meet next time, you don't have to do anything. Just install your reminders and make sure that you have your attitude goal in front of you every day. That you read it, you see the picture, you see your reminders, and simply observe what happens. They're very surprised because of that homework. And then next time they come and tell me, well, I'm really fascinated. Things have already changed. I haven't done anything on the conscious level, but things are already in a change process for the better. Okay, focus on a small number of goals and then use early success indicators. So here we're talking about short-term sprints to the next milestones. And of course, it is important to measure progress on a regular basis. So that's my summary, how these attitude goals are related to more general success factors for implementation. I'm done now here with my slides. Thank you so much, Henrik, for being available. And we still have a few more minutes. Henrik, I will switch off your microphone now. And that is your opportunity to ask your questions here in the chat window. And I see there is already one question. Let me see. When looking at the pictures, if the attitude you're seeking is overcoming a fear, is fear necessarily a negative feeling? Well, this would not fit or would not be in accordance with one of the 3 criteria. It is on avoiding something and not on achieving something. So I would help this person to discover what is the positive goal behind that avoidance goal. That basically would be part of the process that is necessary in that case. Any other questions? So sounds like you're advocating for a major investment of time and energy for the individuals of a team as a way to increase potential for positive change. How likely are teams to make that investment when they ask for a coach, when they ask you to coach them about NCD tasks and implementation strategies? Well, that is a valid point, Gary. Yes, it is time investment. And not everyone is willing to invest that time, and in some cases it is not really necessary. Yeah. So when I see there is a team, it is functioning well, they are all highly motivated, they are full of energy, I don't see any goal conflicts in that group or in the individuals. I probably wouldn't waste time on this process. But very often that is not the case. Very often I'm working with groups where I see they may even have real conflicts within the team. They have motivations that drive them in different directions. They first need more unity within the people and within the team before they really can before they really have the power to go through a long-term change. And then I come up with this suggestion, and not always they say yes. Yeah, but if they say yes, it is worthwhile doing that. So there are some more questions. How do you see attitude goals aligning with transformational leadership? Well, I would say, yeah, from my perspective, that is an important part. Yeah, the inner attitude is, from my perspective as a psychologist, it is a key factor for transformation, absolutely. So a high functioning team with clarity of purpose and goals is already prepared. In many cases, yes, and sometimes you will only discover during the process that it could be helpful to use something like this, or it could be helpful maybe for an individual in that team, maybe for the leader, maybe for the pastor, to guide this person through a process of developing an attitude goal. But in general, I would agree. Yeah, if you have a high functioning team and high motivation, full of energy, this may not be necessary because they are already on a good way. How would we avoid the side effect of groupthink? Would detractors and their attitude be dismissed? That is a difficult question. I don't know if I have a quick answer for that. The group effect. Well, you see, the starting point for a team attitude goal is individual attitude goals. They all have the same guiding question. They are all working under the same topic, to say so, but everyone develops his or her personal attitude goal first. And this is an individual process, facilitated, for instance, by the coach, but everyone is doing that on his own, on her own. No one's influencing that. Yeah, the others are maybe helping with this list of positive associations, but they're not interfering with the wording of the motto. So this is not well. It will not be affected by groupthink. And when it then comes to the team motto, to the team attitude, of course there is a discussion. And sometimes they really have to negotiate to find the right wording, but they cannot stop before everyone in a team says, now this final version is strongly positive for me. It's higher than 70%, and there's nothing negative left. And sometimes that takes a lot of time. They really have to discuss it. They really have to talk about their emotions, their feelings, what they associate with the wording. They have to negotiate. Let's phrase it this way. Let's do it this way. That is a very deep process, but it is not a waste of time because it really helps them to understand each other, to understand motives, and to understand themselves better, and then to come up with something that is powerful for the team. Okay, any other questions? Good, wonderful, which means, one more. How do you communicate a team goal with the whole congregation in an NCD process? That is actually not necessary. A team, well, when we're talking about an attitude goal, yeah, when we're talking about action goals, of course, they should be communicated. That's the public part. But the team motto, the team attitude goal, in a way that is private. And a team attitude goal could even be, it could be that an outsider who was not part of developing that couldn't understand it. Yeah, remember the example I've given you earlier. We hoist the sails. Well, that uses a picture, so it somehow communicates, but sometimes these sentences do not communicate to outsiders at all. Yeah, so there is no need to communicate it outside the group, and I would even say don't do it. Yeah, that's your private thing. It motivates you as the team. No one has to know about it. To the outside, communicated action goals. Private does not have to be equated with secret. Yes, it is not a secret. No, you don't have to hide it. But typically, it will not be understood by outsiders. That's what I mean. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for being part of this webinar. You probably received already information about the next webinars we will have as part of this international NCD coach community this year. Christian Schwarz will do another webinar this year. Henrik Andersen, who just did the presentation together with me, will do a webinar in September. And also Adam Johnston, who is part of our NCD International team and based in Australia, he also will do one of the webinars this year. We will put the recording, the video recording of this webinar on the NCD Coach Community website, and also my presentation. You will find that there probably after Easter. So you can download it, see it again if you like, and yeah, digest it. Okay, let me see. Okay. Thank you very much for your feedback, and thanks for being part, and thanks for your involvement in this. Have blessed time over Easter. Bye.